It began so quietly, so invisibly, that I didn't even realize the moment my life stopped belonging to me and became part of someone else's path. And now, looking back, I understand, I lived through an entire era. Long, heavy, filled with expectations, hopes, and endless work for a person I loved so sincerely that sometimes it felt like my heart wasn't beating for me. But for him, when we met, he was just an ordinary guy. A dreamer, lost among responsibilities and huge plans for the future. His eyes, full of light. His hands, empty. And I, for some reason, decided that I had to become his support. His wall, his foundation, on which he would build his rise. I worked in the morning, in the afternoon, at night, took shifts no one even wanted to look at, took weekend side jobs, came home when the city was already asleep, wrapped in its own lights, and I could barely stay on my feet. But the moment I saw his tired face, heard his annoyed mumbling about not keeping up again, about not understanding the material, all my irritation disappeared. Dissolved, as if his voice could cancel out my exhaustion. I cooked food for him for the whole day. Ironed his clothes. Collecting documents for his studies felt like my second job. I crossed out my own wishes, replacing them with his needs. I kept telling myself, this is temporary, just a little more, he will get on his feet, and we will laugh together, remembering how we survived. But every time I wanted to buy myself something beautiful, something small but pleasant, I walked past. Because his semester had to be paid. Because he needed a book. A trip had to be covered. Another step toward his future had to be taken. And my birthday, it was always just another date. Because he didn't have time. Or we didn't have money. Or he had an important consultation. And again I pushed my dreams into the far drawer. Everything is ahead, I told myself. The important thing right now is him. And his growth. I believed in him so deeply that I didn't notice how he stopped noticing me. At first, it was small things. A forgotten, thank you. Short conversations. Empty promises. Then, rare evenings at home. He came late, irritated by any question. Fell asleep with his phone in his hand. And when I quietly asked if everything was okay, he answered dryly, tired. I defended him to everyone. Said, he's studying, he's trying, it's all for us, for our future. But reality began to crack. And still, I closed my eyes. Because I was too afraid to lose something I had invested not only years into, but my entire self. And then came that day. The strangest day of all. He received his diploma, stood there confident, proud, and somehow unfamiliar. And I looked at him and felt happiness. As if this was our shared success. As if every sleepless night, every early morning, every ruble, every effort, had finally paid off. I even cried quietly so he wouldn't see. But he saw, and only gave me an awkward smile, as if he didn't understand why I was crying at all. I waited for him to come closer. Hug me. Say, we did it. It wasn't for nothing, but in his eyes, I saw only exhaustion. And a strange, cold detachment. As if he was already somewhere far away. As if he was already, not with me. We walked home, and between us, an emptiness grew. With every step, he walked ahead faster than usual. Didn't take my hand, didn't look at me, didn't say a word. And I tried to convince myself that it was just the emotions of the day, the tension, a new chapter. But I didn't know the truth. That evening, the person who walked into our home was no longer the same man. He quietly closed the door, sat on the sofa, didn't look at me even for a second. The air became so heavy that everything inside me tightened. And then he said the phrase everyone who loves is terrified to hear. We need to talk. I fell into an icy void. The words sounded calm, too calm, and that made it even scarier. Because in his voice there were no doubts, no pain, only a decision. He said he wanted to leave. That our relationship had changed. That he had outgrown us. That he needed freedom, a new life, a different future. And then he added that he had met someone else. And something inside me snapped. All 7 years flashed before my eyes. How I held him when he wanted to quit school. How I brought food to him at night in the library. How I ironed shirts at 3 in the morning. How I borrowed money. How I believed in him more than in myself. He spoke quickly, as if afraid to stop. And I listened, unable to cry. As if the tears were stuck somewhere deep. He packed his things silently. Quickly. As if wanting to disappear as soon as possible. Took the laptop bought with my savings. The clothes I ironed. The books I gifted. Didn't even look me in the eye. He walked out. The door slammed. And the silence became so loud, it felt like it was breaking the walls. I sat among the same objects, the same walls, but everything felt foreign. Empty. Dead. I didn't understand how to live even one day, when all 7 years had been about him. Then came days when I barely got up. Days when I looked at the kettle and couldn't press the button, because it felt like nothing mattered anymore. But time passed. It didn't heal, but it pushed me forward. And one day I understood. I had to build my own life. My own. I took out my forgotten dreams. Wrote a resume. Applied for the job I had always wanted. And every small victory lifted me half a centimeter higher. I learned to walk again. To smile again. To live again. 3 months later, I looked in the mirror, and didn't see only pain there anymore. And then, one evening, there was a knock at the door. I opened it, and saw him. Confused. Wearing a wrinkled shirt. Empty eyes. He said he lost his job. The new woman left him. And he had no one to go to. And I looked at him, and felt nothing. No hatred. No pity. No love. Only a calm, confident understanding. This is no longer my story. Not my responsibility. Not my pain. He asked for support. The same support I gave him for 7 years. I took a quiet breath, and just as quietly closed the door in front of him. And with that door, I closed an entire chapter of my life. The chapter that kept me in chains. In that moment, I felt freedom. Real, warm, pure. I understood. Those 7 years, however painful, made me stronger. Taught me to love myself. Taught me to rise even when rising seems impossible. Now, standing by an open window, breathing in the evening air, I know, my life starts right now. Without fear. Without expectations. Without the borrowed shoulders I used to lean on. Now I lean only on myself. And that is enough. And I know, I will make it.